Hi, everybody. Welcome to the webinar, Overcome Negative Networking Beliefs. This is Gus Lawson, and today we're going to discuss 8 ways to reframe beliefs and gain comfort with networking. So let's jump in. So before I get started, I think it's relevant to share my experiences and how I was able to go from someone who actually hated networking and to someone who appreciates it, sees the value in it, and to be honest, actually enjoys it. So, in a broader sense, our experiences shape our beliefs and shape our behaviors. And let's see how that applies to my situation. So, the old me, I saw that some schmoozers and people that got attention from leadership, it wasn't uncommon. Not everyone, of course, but sometimes they lack substance. And I was actually that kind of turned me off from kind of being vocal and broadcasting what my capabilities were, and I just thought that doing a good job and working hard was enough, and I was actually rewarded for that. So that made those experiences and beliefs cemented. And whether it was my time in the Navy, whether it was time in a large consulting project, there were others that were assigned to my career, and they would help me find my next role was. So in the Navy, just as in all the other services, you've got someone who looks and gives you options for what your next assignment is when you finish your assignment. Very similar in my consulting career as well. And then um, I won the job search lottery. What do I mean by the job search lottery? Simply applying online and using that as the sole method to find your next opportunity. There was one instance where I actually saw a job that was very much aligned with my background, and as a result, I got the interview and got the job as well. So I was one of the 4% to apply and win that job. So those experiences shaped my belief that I didn't need networking to succeed. And so what were the implications there? The implications were that I didn't maintain or expand my effort. I didn't put any effort into networking. And as a result, I lost touch with college buddies, shipmates, colleagues. Again, I've just really despised networking. And so, regrettably, I found myself unemployed. And so, knowing that typically the job search lottery is not a successful job tactic, I realized that I had to change. I knew that I needed to reframe some of my beliefs about networking. And, um, when I wasn't employed, I just knew that, again, I wasn't going to win that job search. And then because I hadn't maintained connection with buddies, shipmates, colleagues, I felt icky kind of reaching out to them because I needed something. And so, and there was urgency in my situation. So rather than gradually build that relationship, I went ahead and I was like, hey, I need something. And it just really didn't sit well with me. So again, I kind of had to reshape my belief. Fortunately, I had the coaching experience, so I had the tools to help me reframe my beliefs. And you'll see later that it's as simple as a if-then statement. So if I gain comfort with networking, I will find opportunities. And so as a result, what did I do? I put energy into strengthening and expanding my network. And from a strengthening perspective, that was, maintaining those relationships I valued. And then from the expanding perspective, I was able to get comfortable with applying some tools and techniques. So if I went to an in-person networking session, I gained comfort there. So that's kind of my experiences about networking, and let's continue on. So what are the costs of networking? We're going to briefly go through these. So the first cost, people are less likely to respond when you need help. So that situation where I was unemployed, I didn't have that strong network, and I had my hand out, and the response rates weren't great. Some people, would try, and they would because they valued the relationship from old. But again, I didn't get that response rate that I wish I could have. I felt more isolated. That was another cost of um, me not networking. I felt alone, and that can cause you to go down a bad downward spiral. The other thing is, if you're not keeping in touch with people, they lose track of you. They forget what your capabilities were, and they might not think of you when they find an opportunity that may be a good fit for you. And then also, as you're building and expanding your capabilities and you're growing as a person, by not staying in contact, you can not show others that, hey, there is a new me. This is a new part of me. So if you're interested in rebranding yourself, that's a downside of not networking as well. And, if you're only applying online, you may not know the ins and outs of that organization. You're not getting some research. You may not know the background of why that position is being created and what can make you more competitive to get that opportunity. So those are some of the costs. And as I'm going through this, I just want you to think, what other costs might there be with not networking? Okay, and then so let's flip it. What are some of the benefits of networking that you're not seeing right now that you'd like to see? And no laundry list here, but I just really want you to soak that in and think about it. What could be possible if you do get out there, whether it's online, in person, expand your network, or reconnect with colleagues, friends that you haven't talked to in a while. What might happen as a result of that? And I think an interesting story here is um, I'm currently on a project, and it's due to end in 2 years or so. But rather than wait till 6 months before that project ends, I'm continually networking. And so I went to a networking event, was able to connect with an individual who then connected me with someone at the USO, which then led to some speaking opportunities for me, which led me to really do some more opportunities and gave me a chance to give back to the veteran and transitioning service member community. So you never know what benefits are out there. So let's get down to it. So I found that there are 8 common limiting beliefs that people have about networking. And so we're going to go through each of these, and you can read just as well as I can. So I'm not going to go through each of these right here and now, but we're going to dive into each of these and provide you tips, considerations, and ways to reframe. So let's start with, I don't have time, and actually before we do that, we're going to unpack these beliefs. So just like I discussed in my summary, our experiences shape our beliefs, and those beliefs shape our actions. So if we want to break out of that cycle, if we want to create new experiences and new beliefs, we need to change our actions. So consider this as an example. Say you've got that belief that, hey, you know what, I'm just not good at in-person networking. I'm awkward. I don't feel good about it. Before I go, I tense up. I get nervous. And let's say you don't really try anything new, and you go to another one. Well, if you're not prepared, if you don't have some specific tips and strategies, you may feel that awkwardness again. And then you're kind of re-cementing your beliefs about those in-person networking activities. So the idea here being is, if you reshape your beliefs and you try something a little bit differently, over time you may get some new experiences, and those new experiences will shape your new beliefs. And so quite simply, you'll recall that I used if I do this, blank, this will happen. that's how we're going to unpack these beliefs. And again, we're going to go through those 8 beliefs I listed previously. And so let's get to it. So the first one is, I don't have time. Whether you're fully engaged in your new role, you just started a new project, you want to be devoted to that. How does that belief play out? Well, you don't stay connected with former colleagues. You're not interested in meeting new people. Now that you found your role, maybe you dial back on LinkedIn. You're not as active as you would be because you're thinking short term and you're thinking, hey, I got my job. I'm good now. So let me focus there. And don't get me wrong, it is obviously important to focus on your new job. You do want to build credibility. You want to build those relationships. So it's do that and continue your networking. Because you can see, if we don't stay connected, if we don't meet new people, and we're not participating in LinkedIn, your network's going to suffer over time. And you've probably noticed them as well if you are active on LinkedIn. Someone that you saw was fairly active, then they got a new job, and maybe it's been a year and a half, and now you're starting to see them more active on LinkedIn. Chances are they're looking for that new job. All right. So if you feel like, hey, I just don't have time, here's some considerations I want you to think of. What happens when something changes with your job? So whether the organization is restructuring, maybe you get a new manager, maybe there's a new policy, and the job you're not as excited about it as you used to be. Okay? What happens when maybe you see something and you're interested in making a shift? Or it could be that, you have a side project that's interesting to you and you want to bounce some ideas off of people. So what's going to happen if your network's stale at that point? It's going to take you time to rebuild, re-energize, as opposed to if it's already mobilized and there to support you. So what are some potential ways to reframe that? So if I find 15 minutes a day to reconnect with colleagues, I will strengthen my network. Or if I spend 10 minutes a day interacting on LinkedIn, more people will notice me. And so these are just examples. I'm not prescribing that you do these specific things. If you want to try these, great. But again, fill in the blanks. If I do this, this will happen. Okay, and we're going to repeat this for each of the remaining 7 ways to, or the next 7 beliefs that limit people from networking success. Okay, this was a big one for me. I don't want to feel slimy. So, just that feeling alone can help keep you from going to events. You're not sharing your achievements at work. People don't know what you're working on. And so as a result, you're missing opportunities. You're being too inwardly focused, and people aren't seeing the good stuff that you're doing. Okay, some considerations here. Number 1, you don't have to be someone else when you're networking. Be who you are, 100%. You don't have to shift. You don't have to change, and think of it as a growing experience. Okay. As an introvert, I found that focusing on helping others really helped me, because then I wasn't pushing myself on others. I didn't feel like, hey, I'm trying to get this and use you, or so that really helped me by focusing on others and being a connector. The other thing was, you can expand your reach without bragging. And I really love using social proof for that, and by giving things of value to others. So here's just one potential way to reframe that. If I focus on helping others, I will feel more natural when networking. So you don't have to be that pushy, hey, here's what I'm going after, here's what I'm looking for. And don't get me wrong, there are those that are comfortable doing that, And they can succeed in that because some people appreciate that directness. Okay, so different approaches for different people. But if you have that urge where, I don't want to feel slimy, that's okay. Help others, focus others. Okay, then our next big belief is my work quality and results speak for itself. Again, this was a big one for me as well. So how did this play out for me? Only my management was aware of my capabilities. And then not only that, but when it came time for me to actually go on interviews, I would sometimes struggle articulating the value that I provide organizations because I didn't want to come across as braggy. And again, you're going to miss opportunities as a result of that. Who knows what you would miss as a result? Okay, so some considerations here for you. Who's missing out because you're not able to help them. All right, and you notice this is a big shift. It's not about you and your successes, it's about how you can help others. Okay, and is it really bragging if others are speaking highly of you? And just a quick tangent here. If we're looking at our resumes and we're using a lot of those fluffy adjectives up front, how well is your resume going to pass that 6-second test when recruiters are looking at your resume? So I try to prevent people, or I try to encourage people to not use fluffy adjectives. Number one, it's just lost in the crowd because so many people are saying, I'm highly motivated, or I'm an innovator, or I'm a strong communicator. Well, what does that specifically mean? So what I like to do is I like to provide testimonials in a document that's linked to my LinkedIn profile. And then as a result, that gives me a link. And then I can share that as a link so that people can click on it and see what others have said about me. So it's not me using flowery adjectives, it's other people speaking concretely about how I've helped them and what they were able to accomplish. So how can we reframe this? So here's how I've reframed it. If I share my knowledge about how to overcome common challenges I see, more people will see the value I provide, and as a result, I will attract people to come to me. And so think of it this way. As you're first starting your networking, you're going to be the one asking for more help. And then you're going to notice, now this takes a while. It's not going to be after a week. It could be, a year, 2 years. But it's those small, concrete, consistent behaviors where over time you're going to see a shift in your spectrum where people are going to start reaching out to you. And so rather you being the hunter, if you will, people are going to start coming to you for guidance and asking you for help because you're out there putting your information out in a non-braggy way. So it is possible to, provide value to others and do so without bragging. All right, our next one. I feel awkward. I'm just not good at it. Okay, so how does this play out? Again, you're probably not going to events because you get tense before and you don't like that experience, you don't like that feeling. If you do, you don't try new techniques, you're not getting new results. And I touched on this a little earlier, but your continued discomfort reinforces your old beliefs. And so as a result, you just don't go and you're not going to get better at it. And as another additional result here, you're going to get frustrated, you're going to give up, and you're just not going to do it. Okay? So considerations. Again, you can be yourself, gain comfort by nailing down your elevator pitch. I like to reframe that as a career mission statement. I've got a LinkedIn article about career mission statements. You can look at my profile and get that. Essentially, there's 3 questions there. Again, we can talk more about that later. And flip it, put attention on other people. So when others are talking, when others are doing more of the talking, they review the discussion in higher regard. And so as a result, they're going to think of you better because you engage them. You ask interesting questions, they're going to feel better about themselves. So what I like to do is just have 2 or 3 simple questions. And these are very simple. You don't want to come up with a list of 6 questions because then you can get overwhelmed and say, oh, what was the question I was going to ask? But then, just look at it from, all right, just think of it as a mission to find out what you have in common with the other person. So it could be as simple as some of my favorite questions. What are you excited about? They can take that any way they want. In fact, they may even ask, are you talking professionally, personally? What do you mean? And then I just encourage them, hey, take it any way you want. What are you excited about? And that gets them talking. And then, think of yourself, if you will, on a law show, and you're the lawyer, and you want to find out more and get more details. So if they find something that's of interest to you, try and dig deep, ask for more details. So that's one question. What excites you? Another great one that I like to ask is, hey, what are you binge watching these days? And perhaps you find something in common there. Another simple question is, where are you originally from? And maybe there's a connection there. Another one, where's your favorite place you've been to? Just anything, and you'll notice that those are just kind of personal or non-professional questions, just to get to know people on a personal level. Look for groups of 3. This is my favorite tip. When I first saw this tip, this dramatically changed how I felt about in-person networking events. So the problem is, if you see 2 people, and I still feel this way today, I don't want to go up to them because they're having an engaging discussion and I don't want to interrupt them. So what I do is I look for groups of 3 people. And so what will happen is, of those 3 people, one is likely less engaged in the discussion than the other 2. That person is going to naturally peel off the discussion. And so you just go up to the group of 3 and say, hey, I'm Gus. Excuse the interruption. And and then again, one's going to naturally peel off because they weren't as included in that discussion, and now you've got your one-on-one discussion. Now you can engage in them, and now you can ask them questions. Okay, so I know I went into a lot of detail, but to me, I think this is the biggie. Potential ways to reframe this. So if I practice going to at least one networking event every 2 weeks, I will get better. Think of it as a learning experience. Are you going to knock it out of the park your very first networking event? Maybe, but if not, it's okay. It's just like driving. It's just like golfing. It's just like anything else that we do as humans. The more you do it, the more you practice, the more you're going to get better at it. Okay. Another potential way to reframe it: if I embrace feeling uncomfortable, I will eventually feel more comfortable. The example I use here, I mentioned driving earlier, is consider all the beliefs and thoughts that were going into your head the first time you turn the ignition key, or if you're a little bit younger, push the ignition button. And for me, hey, how quickly do I hit the accelerator? Uh, how quickly do I need to hit the brakes? What's the speed limit? What's that car doing over there? Let me turn here. Where am I going? How far in advance do I need to turn? And, you just have all these thoughts. Now, let's go back to maybe last week. Can you imagine a time where perhaps you were driving and there's a landmark that you typically see but you haven't seen lately, or that you didn't see because you were deep in thought? Well, how much were you thinking about driving? Well, you weren't really, because it's a natural thing for you, because that uncomfort became comfortable. So the same with networking. Use that growth mindset, and as a result, you'll find that the uncomfortable will become more comfortable. Okay. Another belief is, I just don't know where to start. Again, how does this plan out or play out? Without a plan, you don't take action. You continue not to network, and again, your network degrades. I know, common theme here. As a result, you're going to miss some opportunities. And that's the big wake-up call, is why I really encouraging more introverts to get out there and network, because there are so many opportunities out there that you may be missing as a result. Okay, so considerations. Here's one of my favorites. Be selfish in your strategy. Okay, know what it is that you want, and then selfless in your personal interactions. Okay, so again, you're helping others. You're being seen as someone who isn't keeping networking score. It's not a quid pro quo. You're just genuinely helping others, and as a result, people are going to think of you when it comes time, as long as you're maintaining those relationships over time. Okay, the big consideration, overcoming those after you overcome those limiting beliefs, there's 3 big steps. Number 1, know your target audience, develop your career mission statement. The second time I've mentioned career mission statement, it's so critical, because now if you know who your target audience is, you know what the great events that are aligned with that audience, whether it's online, in person, you know where your target audience is going to be. And so that's going to give you a much more enriched networking experience. Okay? Again, reconnecting with existing connections, and then determine online and in-person venues to meet new people, and again, aligned with your strategy, aligned with your goals and what it is you want to accomplish. Okay, so ways to reframe this. If I take time thinking about what I want to do next, I'll know where to focus my networking energy, and if I start anywhere, I will eventually figure it out. So even if you don't have your networking strategy in place and you're still trying to figure out your career mission statement, don't let that stop you from networking. So go to just some generic networking events. That's okay, because practice is good for practicing's sake. But then you'll find, okay, now that I've know where I want to go, now I'll know which events will be better suited for me. Okay, we've touched on this a little bit. I don't want to use people, so as a result, you may not be asking for help. And if you have a strong sense of pride and you commonly say, "Hey, I've got this. I can do anything. I'm good." That responsibility and can lead you to believe that, it's really not okay to ask others for help. Maybe you have a stigma with asking for help. And bottom line there is, as a result, no one's going to be aware of what you need. They're going to keep continuing with their lives, and they're not going to connect you with potential opportunities. So when you have your requests, be clear in those requests. Okay? Be crystal clear in your requests. And I know I've mentioned the career mission statement, but that's really going to help you out there as well. Okay? So considerations, perhaps you're not helping others as much as you could be. And how will you know how to help others if you're not staying connected with them? So it could be someone's progressed in their career, and has a different need that maybe you'd be able to connect them with somebody else, but because it's been maybe 2 years, you don't know what they need. And so as a result, it makes it difficult for you to connect them with others. And then the other thing is, when people see you giving so much, you may not even ask for anything. They may just send things to you that they think you'll be interested in. Okay, so one potential way to reframe this belief is if I stay connected with people and find ways to help them, I won't feel guilty for asking for help. Okay, another big one is trust. Some people, it's hard for them to trust others. And so, again, how does this play out? It takes a long time and constant communication to build this trust. There's less reliance on new acquaintances, and new people you meet will often fade away. They'll become one and done discussions. And as a result, you can miss good qualities in others. And so, as a result, your sphere of influence is going to stay small. And again, those potential opportunities are going to pass you by. So one thing to consider here is, what's driving the lack of trust? And I encourage you to try and get past that. And I would suspect that your spidey senses will likely alert you when someone is doing something that may go against your trust. And I would just, two ways to look at it. Number one is, trust. If you think of one of those graduated cylinders from high school chemistry class, and so one is you start off with an empty cylinder, and then you've got a pitcher full of trust, and so you gradually pour the trust in over time. So that's option one. Option two is that same graduated cylinder is filled with trust, and until they do something that's untrustworthy, you pour the trust out when they do something untrustworthy. So I like to give trust and let people behavior either keep it there or erode it over time. And so as we think of that, what's the way to reframe that? If I put effort toward meeting new people and learning about them, I will build trust with them. Okay. Another limiting belief is that a large network is unsustainable. And so how does this play out? One just doesn't see the value in growing your network. You focus more on your existing network, and there could be a risk of those relationships growing stale. If you're connecting with the same people month after month, maybe, and what I found is not everyone is a good networker. So even if you reach out, maybe they don't reply. And so as a result, that relationship can grow stale. And so, how does this play out? You're just not putting effort into new relationships. And so the consideration there, is we often don't think about this, but the way we land on others is pretty powerful. Even though we may not know it or realize it, how we interact with people, we leave a mark. And people will often keep us in high regards. And even if we want to reconnect with them, it's possible. Okay? And the other thing that I want you to think of is that it's possible to affect more people than you realize. And so using a system to help you not only strengthen, but grow your network is going to be really powerful for you. And that's the potential way to reframe here. So again, if I implement a system to stay connected with others, I can grow my relationships. Okay? There are many reasons not to network. Okay? I'm too busy. I'm not comfortable. In summary here, I just don't see the value in it. So what I encourage you, and I hope this webinar has been helpful for you, but I want you to think about what excuses might you be making. And I want you to think about, of these 8 negative beliefs, which belief do you need to reframe so that you can better achieve your career goals? And just think of, those benefits again. How will you feel when you have a stronger support network that's, ready to support you. And, you know, take time today. Don't push it off till next week. Don't push it off to tomorrow. But what are you going to do today so that you can reframe your networking beliefs? What's your new belief going to be? And what are those actions going to do for you? So remember, again, if I do this, this will happen. I just want to thank everybody. Again, stay connected. Share your progress. It's possible that you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, and that's quite all right if you want to stay that way. If you do want to connect with me, here's the link. It's just linkedin.com/in/Gus Lawson. And then there's my email address if you want to send me a note. Okay? And if you're interested in some more career boosting resources, when you sign up for the Networking Lab, there's a link to the discussion board, and I'll send that out frequently. But the goal here is to develop a community of like-minded people where maybe they used to struggle with networking. Now they see the benefits. Now they've applied some of the tips, and now they're positioned to ready to help others. So I encourage you to join that discussion board. If you're not quite sure about what's next for you, again, career mission statement. That's part of my Career Reignition Road Trip series. Again, free articles on my LinkedIn profile. I recently started volunteering with Vets to Industry, a fantastic website, lots and lots. I think there's over 100 different resources that are available to help transitioning service members and veterans with their transition. And oh, by the way, you've got an existing network that can help you. And there's people out there that you haven't met yet that are going to help you boost your career. And so with that, I appreciate your time and attention, and I welcome any feedback that you have. And what I would really love is if you could send me a note, again, glawson734@gmail.com. My request is two things. Number one, send me a note of what you plan on doing. And number two is when you plan on doing it by. And then that'll help cement in the actions that you want to take. And then that gives me an opportunity to check in with you and see how things are working and answer any questions that you have. So with that, thank you very much, and get out there and start networking. All right. Bye, everybody.